on my show, we look for people who are taking a non-traditional approach to dealing with that issue, and we've profiled dozens of them.
They say television is all smoke and mirrors. But what if the truth behind one of America's most beloved shows was darker than anyone ever imagined? For years, fans laughed as Mike Rowe dove headfirst into the dirtiest jobs in the country. But now, shocking revelations from his own crew expose the danger, sacrifice, and heartbreak that cameras never showed. From near-death experiences to emotional breakdowns, this is the side of dirty jobs no one was ever meant to see. Stay with us, because by the end, you'll realize Mike Rowe didn't just film Dirty Jobs, he lived it. When Dirty Jobs premiered in 2003, no one at the Discovery Channel could have predicted that it would become a movement. The idea was simple: showcase America's toughest, dirtiest, and most overlooked jobs. But from the moment the cameras began rolling, Mike Rowe and his small team realized they weren't just making television. They were entering the real heart of America, the places no one else wanted to go, meeting the people most of the world had forgotten. There were no scripts, no rehearsals, no second takes. Every scene was real, raw, and unpredictable. Once filming began, anything could happen, and it usually did. From the very beginning, Mike Rowe demanded authenticity. He refused to fake reactions or rely on stunt doubles. If a worker stood knee-deep in mud, Mike would be right beside them. If a sewer worker had to crawl through sludge, Mike went first. One cameraman recalled a moment early in filming when the crew entered a wastewater treatment plant where the stench was overwhelming. Half the crew was gagging, but Mike just smiled, grabbed a shovel and said, "If they can handle this every day, so can we." That moment defined what Dirty Jobs was all about: respect, endurance, and truth. Each location came with new dangers: toxic fumes, unstable ground, venomous animals, and heavy machinery that could crush a man in seconds. Yet Mike Rowe's biggest fear was never the danger. It was faking it. He believed the audience could always sense dishonesty, and he was determined to make sure that never happened on his watch. His stubborn authenticity earned him the crew's admiration, but it also terrified them. Behind his humor and charm was a man constantly pushing the limits of safety and sanity. The show's success came fast, but so did the toll. The grueling hours, harsh weather, and non-stop travel broke everyone down. The crew often slept in vans, skipped meals, and worked with barely any rest. And Mike stayed right beside them through every moment. When others were collapsing from exhaustion, he was still taking notes, planning the next day's narration, making sure the stories of those workers were told the right way. He never acted like a star. He was one of them. Dirty, tired, and determined. There were moments of real danger that the audience never saw. Once, while filming a segment on snake removal, Mike was bitten through his glove. His hand swelled almost instantly, but he refused medical attention until filming was done. "If the locals can handle it, I can too," he told his team. Another time, while shooting in a steel mill, he slipped on a slick beam and barely caught himself before falling. During another episode, he was nearly swept away when a wastewater tank began flooding due to a machinery failure. When they finally pulled him out, soaked and gasping, he just laughed and said, "Guess we found the dirtiest job of all." The crew laughed too, but they all knew how close they had come to tragedy. Those near misses weren't rare. Every day carried new risks, but Mike Rowe's calmness under pressure kept everyone together. He made us believe every crazy moment was worth it, one cameraman admitted. Between shots, Mike checked in on his crew personally. Not as their boss, but as their brother. He knew how to lift spirits when exhaustion hit, cracking jokes even when he was hurting himself. But behind that easygoing grin was a man carrying enormous stress. The responsibility of honoring real workers, staying authentic, and protecting the people who trusted him to lead. The world saw laughter, mud, and camaraderie. But behind every episode of Dirty Jobs was a reality few could imagine. Beneath the upbeat edits and music were moments of pain, fear, and exhaustion that never reached television. Those unseen moments revealed who Mike Rowe truly was. He comforted grieving workers who'd lost colleagues, thanked elderly farmers for a lifetime of labor, and listened to stories no one else cared to hear. But producers often cut those scenes because they weren't flashy enough. They didn't fit the fun image of the show. Yet the crew knew that was the heart of Mike Rowe. The quiet compassion, the genuine respect. He didn't want pity for the people he met. He wanted dignity. "These people don't need sympathy," he once said. "They need recognition." That belief became the soul of Dirty Jobs, a show about the hands that build, clean, and sustain our world. As the show's fame grew, so did the pressure. The Discovery Channel demanded bigger stunts and more drama, but for Mike and his loyal crew, it was never about spectacle. It was about truth. The tension behind the scenes grew heavier. Exhausted but devoted, his team sometimes begged him not to take risks. He'd just grin and say, "If I don't do it, it's not real." After long, grueling days, Mike always brought them back together over simple dinners, reminding them, "If we can't trust each other, we don't belong out there." That trust was sacred. And when outsiders began invading their close circle, Mike Rowe fought for his crew with unwavering loyalty, reminding everyone, no crew, no show. Off camera, Mike Rowe was completely different from the confident TV personality America knew. He was quiet, reflective, and deeply philosophical about the meaning of work. His crew called him the philosopher of dirt. On long road trips, he'd quote old writers about labor and the soul of America. He saw poetry in welding sparks, beauty in a farmer's cracked hands, and pride in the quiet struggle of janitors and miners. He didn't just film these workers, he stayed connected to them. He wrote letters, checked in on families, and even attended funerals. He didn't want credit. He didn't want attention. He did it because he cared, said one producer. When offered a private trailer, he refused. "If the crew's sweating in the heat, I'm not sitting in air conditioning." That humility became his trademark, but even the strongest spirit can break. After years of danger, travel, and emotional weight, Mike Rowe began to feel the cracks. The exhaustion showed in his eyes, even when his voice stayed upbeat. He worked through pain, back injuries, infections, bronchitis, refusing to slow down. Until one night, over dinner, he finally admitted to his crew, it was never supposed to be about ratings. It was supposed to be about people. It was the first time he ever hinted he might walk away. When Dirty Jobs ended in 2012, fans assumed the show was canceled due to ratings. But the truth was far more human. It was Mike's decision. He needed to step away, to breathe, and to rediscover what the show had really been about. For him, it wasn't entertainment. It was a mission to restore respect for honest work. His crew understood. He didn't quit, one of them said. He evolved. Years later, Mike Rowe's team still speaks about those years with pride. They say Dirty Jobs wasn't just a show, it was a life-changing experience. It taught them that dignity doesn't wear a suit. It wears overalls, gloves, and steel-toed boots. Even after the cameras stopped, Mike Rowe carried the mission forward through his Mike Rowe Works Foundation, helping fund scholarships for skilled trades across America. He proved that real heroes don't chase fame. They build, fix, and serve quietly. The crew still keeps old, mud-stained photos from those years, reminders of the sweat, danger, and laughter they shared. When asked about Mike Rowe's true legacy, one sound engineer said it best. He didn't make Dirty Jobs famous. He made the people who do them matter. And that's the truth behind Mike Rowe. The man who didn't just get dirty for the camera. He carried the dirt of America's working class with pride and turned it into something beautiful. Because in the end, Dirty Jobs was never about dirt. It was about dignity. About the quiet heroes who keep the world running, even when no one is watching. Mike Rowe didn't just host a show. He built a movement. One that still reminds us all to respect hard work, value the unseen, and never forget the hands that built this nation. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Not for fame, but for every worker who gets their hands dirty to make life possible. Subscribe for more true stories that reveal the heart behind the heroes we thought we knew. And remember the words of Mike Rowe himself: if you're willing to get your hands dirty, the world's still full of opportunity. Thanks for watching.